And so fat can be broken down into essentially 5 different categories at minimum. And a couple of these folks might have heard before, but we're gonna go even deeper. So the first type is subcutaneous fat. And subcutaneous fat is a type of white adipose tissue. This is the fat that's just below your skin. And so if you think about like fat on your arms or your thighs, your butt, you can also have some subcutaneous fat on your belly, but that's the stuff you can pinch. Now,
I can pinch a lot right here.
the other type of fat is visceral fat. And it's also known as omentum fat. And omentum fat is the kind of deeper recesses of your abdominal cavity, right? So this is the fat that's really kind of around the organs, kind of if you have a lot of visceral fat, putting stress on your pancreas and on your kidneys and just everything in your core.
This is the fat inside your not on the outside of your muscles, but inside your body.
Yeah, so it's like your abdominal cavity.
Gotcha. Your visceral fat, and you want less of that.
Yeah, this is the most dangerous type of fat. This is the fat that's most correlated with heart disease, with Alzheimer's, with type 2 diabetes. It's just putting stress on your core, everything, which there's so much around there.
Digestive tract, your organs, your liver, your stomach, everything.
And this is the stuff, it's a little bit more firm to the touch. It's a little bit harder to get your hands around. And so these are both still 2 types of white adipose tissue. These are storage fats. Okay, so your body's storing energy. And before I go on, let me preface by saying this. Our fat is actually amazing. It's one of the most important things that have made us the humans that we are today, is our ability to store energy and to go back and utilize that energy. Our fat is programmed to do what we've taught it to do. It's just doing what it's programmed to do. It's very good at it though. And it can be a little bit clingy, so you have to give the right messages, and that's part of the issue. So I just want to make that clear. And fat is also, we tend to think it's like scattered droplets of cells or unhappiness throughout our body, but it's really an organ itself. So
fat is an organ.
It's an organ. It's an organ that has this interconnected communication. And being that it's an organ, it produces its own hormones. All right, so it's like producing more hormones that encourage more fat storage if it gets out of hand. All right, so I want to preface by saying that.
Wait, is it an organ or is it like an organ?
It's an organ.
Fat is an organ.
Yes.
Just
like, for example.
So fat in our body is one organ and it's all connected from the brain from the fat in my brain to my belly to my toe.
Now there's different types of fat communities. Okay. All right. So this is another conversation. I go through all of these. I literally call it the fat communities in Eat Smarter and break this stuff down. So there's another type of fat in the white adipose tissue camp that a lot of people don't know about. It's called intramuscular fat. All right, intramuscular fat.
Is this the third type of fat?
Yeah. And so this type of fat really works on site to provide energy to your muscles. Now, when I went to school, my conventional education, I really was indoctrinated with an idea that fat and muscle are they have this dichotomy, like they're 2 different things, they're separate, but they actually work together. And intramuscular fat really provides, just to think about what it looks like, if you think about the marbling of a steak, all right, that's that's your intramuscular fat. Now that can get out of hand too, and you can get what we refer to as chubby muscles, all right, with the intramuscular fat. So that's too much white adipose tissue storage on that particular fat community, all right? So these 3 are white adipose tissue. These are storage fats. Now here's what's really amazing, and a lot of folks might know about this next one. We also have body fat that burns fat. So they're not storage fats. These are fats that contribute to the burning of energy. The first one that's becoming a lot more recognizable is brown adipose tissue, all right, or BAT, brown adipose tissue, or brown fat. Now, brown fat, the reason that it's brown is that it's so dense in mitochondria, all right?
Mitochondria are good, right?
Yeah, mitochondria are really the energy power plants of our cells, really producing the energy. When we talk about having energy, these are the power plants creating that energy. And mitochondria is where your fat actually gets burned, all right? So folks we're taught these like diet paradigms, like how does it work? Where does the fat go? How does it get burned? Your mitochondria actually are the place where the triglycerides get shipped to actually burn them and use them as fat. So brown adipose tissue is brown because it's so dense in mitochondria.
Side note, How do I go to bed weighing a certain amount and then I wake up and I lose 2 pounds? Where does that go? Is that just burned through sweat? Is that just mitochondria burning and it's disintegrating into the air? What is happening?
This is such a great question. So in Eat Smart, this is the first time in book form, we're walking people through how the process of fat loss actually happens. And it's just, the question should be where the hell does fat go?
Where does it go?
Does it go to
you just poop it out? Do you sweat it out? Does it?
You've got that.
Do I breathe it in?
You've got that Thanos keychain. Does it go to another dimension? Exactly. You know what I mean? But what they did, and this was so fascinating, they actually tracked the path of fat getting burned throughout the body and tracked how it actually is eliminated. And so what they discovered was that about 84% of the fat, because, okay, we have to preface by saying this. For us psychologically, in our culture, we tend to think of burning fat, if there's a visual of it, it's sweating.
Yeah.
We're at the gym, we're sweating it out. That's your fat cells crying, having a good breakup cry, That's what we think.
Yeah.
But in actuality, about 84% of the fat that you lose or that you expel from your body is through breathing.
What?
Yeah, it's eliminated via your lungs. Yeah, it's carbon dioxide.
So no way. So fat
about
burns
84%.
in the body and then it goes into your lungs? It's like transporting through the lung cavity and then you breathe it out?
It's an eliminatory organ, We don't think about that.
What?
We tend to think about our gastrointestinal tract, our bladder as eliminatory organs, your lungs. And so you breathe about 84% of the fat that you lose comes out via your breath. And about a third of that happens while you're sleeping at night.
So you breathe fat out. That's how you burn it.
Yeah.
How much?
Caesar Milan is the dog whisperer.
Yes.
You're the fat whisperer.
Exactly. I burn it in my sleep. So wait a minute. How much fat do we burn through our lungs?
About 84% of it.
So all of our fat. So if I'm 100 pounds.
But this is not just you're breathing. It's all the metabolic processes that take place to create the metabolic kind of offshoots or
it just
metabolic
comes
waste.
Through the mouth.
Right, through the breathing. You also do eliminate some of body fat through fluids. So about, somewhere around the ballpark of about 15%, 16 to 14% sweat,
and
urine.
Bathroom.
Yeah. Tears. All of these things are eliminating
fat
products.
Fat cells.
Yeah.
Is the fat, it looks coagulated when you look at it in your body, right? So how does it break down and then turn into just nothing that you can see?
Yeah, it's a very complex and beautiful process.
The body is fascinating what it can do.
It is. When you're born, you have a certain allotment of fat cells. All right, you can't just indiscriminately kill them. They get filled with more and more energy. It makes the fat cell expand. So what we're trying to do is to get the fat cell to let go of its contents so they can be used as fuel.
Right.
All right, and so there are two enzymes that are really the head ushers that push the fat contents or triglycerides into the fat cell, or they usher them out when it's time to leave. So one of its hormone-sensitive lipase is the one that comes and gets folks out of the theater. All right, lipoprotein lipase takes the triglycerides and ushers them into the theater. All right, and then there's organs that kind of dominate and regulate what those enzymes are doing. Namely your pancreas is like the mother of two brothers who have two different roles. One of them is insulin, and the other one, its brother, is glucagon. All right, insulin is when you think of insulin, what do you think of though?
Eating sugar.
Yeah.
That's what I think of, because insulin spikes in the body when you eat sugar, right?
Yeah, and most folks think of diabetes too. It's tied into that lexicon.
Of course.
But insulin is so important for our survival. It's a super amazing.
We need it.
Yes, you absolutely have to have insulin. And if you're born, in a condition where you have type 1 diabetes and the beta cells in your pancreas aren't even making insulin, you can die. Your cells won't get energy. So now here's the thing. Insulin's job is to store energy. All right? Yeah, and to encourage all those enzymes and to do their work as well. So when it's out of hand, when insulin is too active, it can be a problem.
It's storing too much fat.
Yeah, and it can get to a point where there's so much activity with insulin, it's getting overrun and stressed out that it stops doing its job properly. That's where you get insulin resistance. All right, and then you have something called this kind of instant fat cell creation that can take place with the liver. It'll just start making its own fat as well. So, but we'll circle back to that a little bit later.
Yes.
But here's the thing. So you got insulin doing its job of fat storage or energy storage. Glucagon does the opposite. it encourages your cells to let go of their contents to be used as energy. But glucagon cannot do its job unless his brother sits his ass down somewhere and
Insulin.
stops. Yes.
So how do you get insulin to stop doing its job?
That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. But we don't want it to stop. We just want it to be efficient.
Efficient.
And now here's another thing. We do know that, as you mentioned, sugar is a big driver of insulin, carbohydrates in general.
Yeah.
However,
Breads, pastas, right?
yeah, protein does as well. It incites
Really?
the activity of insulin at a lesser degree for sure. And even fat, in a kind of backdoor way, does drive insulin function too, or even contributes to potentially insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance. So it's not just this one thing, but we do know that in our culture, on average, folks are eating like 150 pounds of sugar a year, so that abnormal amount of exposure is chronically creating this overactivity of insulin to the point that we have insulin resistance.
Because 100 years ago, we weren't eating as much sugar, I'm assuming, in
Yeah.
processed
It's
foods.
not even close. It's not even close.
But what is with the life expectancy increases every year, it seems like. We're eating more and more bad things, but we're able to live longer, whereas before we weren't.
That's the misnomer, though. We're not necessarily living longer. We're dying longer.
We're getting sicker and being able to
being
stay
able
alive.
Yes. It's
interesting.
very different. And this is the first generation. We are the first generation right now that is going to not outlive our generations before us. Right? This is the first time we're seeing this downtick. When we're
do you
supposed to
mean?
be seeing folks, well, basically the life expectancy has gone down for the first time
Really?
in like recent history. Yeah.
So we're saying we're not supposed to outlive our parents? Or what do you mean?
So we'll just say the life expectancy of the past generation was 80 years old. Now it's 79.
Really?
So it's just the life expectancy has gone
Interesting.
down for the first time.
Previous
in
generation,
recent-
got
in
you.
recent history.
It's interesting. I was asking Dr. David Sinclair about this.
I love him.
He was like, the goal is not to live as long as you can and be sick and miserable. He's like, I've seen that in too many people. The goal is to live as long as you can, healthy, flexible, abundant, not with chronic pain, and then die quickly.
Right.
To get sick and then die within a week. Not get
that's
sick
not
and
what we
die
want.
within 20 years of misery. He's like, that's not a great life.
Yeah. We don't just want lifespan. We want health span. And it all really boils down, and this is the most beautiful part about this, and what I'm really hoping to impress upon culture, because when we tend to think of food, we tend to think of it in relationship. In our culture, we think of diet in relationship to weight. It's just like what's connected. When in reality, food is one of the greatest, if not the greatest determinant of what every single cell and organ system in your body is doing at all times. And this is what I really want to get across is, of course, I'm going to give you the best information possible on the metabolism connection with food, but also how does food affect your cognitive performance? And it's shocking when you find this data out, how deeply food impacts your levels of empathy and your ability to connect with other people. We'll break that down as well.
What are the foods that cultivate more empathy and compassion? And what are the
Before
foods?
we get to that, the fat storage, there was one more.
Were you talking about brown fat?
Yeah, brown fat.
And there was another fat?
Yeah, so
With
there's
that.
one other fat. And so brown adipose tissue is very dense in mitochondria, right? So these energy power plants, that's why it's brown. Babies have a lot of brown fat. It's kind of an evolutionary adaptation advantage to prevent hypothermia, just to
Keep them
basically
warm.
keep thermogenesis going. As you become an adult, you have a lot less brown adipose tissue. It's mostly located like around your collarbones, your shoulder blades, down your spine. And brown adipose tissue is remarkable in that it's really correlated if you have enough brown adipose tissue, which you can create more, and the mobilization and activity of it is correlated with having a better body composition. So this type of fat is burning fat for you if you know what
Brown
to do.
fat.
Yeah. All right, so we got 3 storage fats, and then we've got 2 other types of fat.
And that's body fat that burns fat.
Yes, and so this other one, and this is one a lot of folks might not know a lot about yet, is beige fat.
Is this the 5th type of fat?
Yeah, so this is beige fat.
Beige fat.
And so beige fat is really, really remarkable in that it can actually become brown fat or white fat. All right? Based on your lifestyle inputs and your nutrition can determine whether it's going to be turning into a fat storing type of fat or a fat burning type of fat. And the browning of this fat one of the things, and I'll just throw this out there for folks since you asked about a specific food, when we go through so many different, but I'm going to throw one out that might sound a little bit crazy, a little controversial, is coffee. Coffee has been found to encourage your beige fat cells to become brown fat cells. And in fact, one of the studies that I cited in Eat Smarter found they actually used fMRI, and they looked at what was happening in the body when somebody drank coffee, and they saw the brown fat areas of the body actually light up, signaling increased thermogenesis. And one of the studies found that there's about a 3 to 11% increase in metabolic rate from having caffeine. Now, there's a U-shaped curve of benefits, right? Some is good. Once we get to a certain place, we can mess ourselves up. And also we get in the conversation of what is that coffee coming along with, right? Is it coffee, or are you consuming coffee with
donuts and crap?
And like, these coffee creamers with all these synthetic chemicals.
That is not good.
And even the coffee itself, are you getting a piping hot cup of coffee with pesticides and herbicides and rodenticides and these toxicants that damage these hormones related to fat loss and fat storage and create kind of dysbiosis in the gut? So there's a big conversation there, and we dive into all these pieces to see, like, there's so many wonderful things that we have access to, but in our culture, we've been a little bit led astray. And it's not that coffee is inherently good or bad. It's been utilized by humans for centuries, but it's the quality and how you're going about it that can make all the difference.
And the quantity probably, and
Yeah, and so just going back to your original question, when we're targeting that, the belly fat specifically, and this is something that is not talked about enough. It's really about encouraging and optimizing the hormones related to fat storage and fat burning, right? And this gets into the conversation of calories, because we tend to be very calorie focused as far as if we're trying to lose weight or we're trying to lose belly fat. And it's not that calories don't matter. I want to make that clear. I want to preface with this. But when I was in my nutritional science class in college, the king, the monarch, the warden of diet is calories. And I say warden intentionally because it gets into this kind of prisoner mentality.
Yeah.
And diets are really revolving around this. And I'm always asking this question, and I'm so grateful that I've kind of hardwired myself to do this. Where did it come from? Where the hell did this idea start? And so I went back and examined the entire history of calories. And it actually, for me, it's just like when we find like Egyptian pyramids, like they didn't have any shit about calories. Nobody was even thinking about it or looking for it, even when it was discovered. And it wasn't discovered and used for nutrition. It was discovered and utilized initially in physics and engineering. And and this was in 1800s. And then it made its transition into nutrition thanks to a guy named Wilbur Atwater. But he's just kind of a little side note as well. And I go back and talk about all the people involved, but this is what changed America. This is what changed the world, really, was a physician. She's a pioneer for sure. Her name was Dr. Lulu Hunt Peters. And she's the one who popularized the term calorie. And she sold, and this was back in the early 1900s, she created a nutrition book, a diet book, and it sold 2 million copies back then, which is basically everybody and their mother had this book. All right. Now,
what was it called?
This was Diet and Health and the Key to Calories, something like that, the Key to Calories. But I went back and read these old fangled writings. There's like a lot of pieces of it online. And this began the indoctrination of our culture in starting to look at food in terms of numbers. It's no longer this dynamic, multifaceted entity that affects all of our hormones and neurotransmitters and organ systems. Now it's numbers. And she specifically said, we will no longer call a slice of bread a slice of bread. You won't say one slice of bread, you'll say 100 calories of bread. You will no longer say a slice of pie, you say 350 calories of pie. And so we stopped looking at food as food. We started this evolution and started looking at it as numbers. And she asserted that a woman of her height could eat whatever she wanted as long as she maintained 1,200 calorie intake. And now let me also make this clear. Dr. Lulu Hunt Peters battled with her weight for her lifetime, all right? And it's that term of like, teach what you want to learn kind of thing. Now, this is also crucial. And some people, this might tug at their heartstrings a little bit. This was also the beginning of this indoctrination, associating food with character, associating food with morality. And so she basically asserted that it's a character defect if you're not able to manage your weight. There's something wrong with you. and started to use terms like sin and punishment in relationship to food. And this was also during the time of like World War I, so food rationing was a big thing happening.
Right.
And she said, one of her quotes I put in the book, and I'm paraphrasing that, for every pang of hunger you feel, you should have a double joy knowing that you're saving the hunger pangs in a starving child or, with soldiers. So she's basically saying this was also a massive change in our perception that hunger is related to weight loss. If you're hungry, you're doing it right. And this started to really change the psychology of dieting, right? And so calories began to become the king and the big focus. Now, I want to say this, calories matter for sure. It's a measurement of energy in food, just like a meter is a measure of energy in distance. But that meter is consistent. If we measure this room consistently, it's going to be the same meters.
Same distance.
However, calories
are different.
Completely ignore, when you're talking about a measurement of energy, it ignores the complexity of human digestion and human hormones and neurotransmitters and cellular function. It's going to be different every day, the calories that you consume and what effects it has on your body.
Because our hormones are changing, our
Yes.
bodies are changing, our timelines are changing. What we used to eat when we were 12 may not affect us now when we're 40 or 50.
Exactly. Let alone you versus another person. And this is where we get in these situations where a diet works for one person, but it doesn't work for someone else. And I'm sick of it, man.
Wow.
Because people keep thinking there's something wrong with them and they're not getting these very fundamental principles. And so folks can start to free themselves of this caloric prison. I can share, there's 5 really powerful metrics that are not examined. There's really 5 major things that control what calories do in your body.
What are those?
So if we think about, I keep mentioning hormones, but just to give a good analogy of what hormones are really biochemical messengers that help your cells, this cellular community that you have, this amazing cellular community, to communicate with each other. It's like metabolic DMs, right? It's like text messages, emails.
How many hormones do we have?
There's about 50.
50 different hormones.
Yeah, about 50.
Are hormones, what is a hormone? Is it a cell? Is it an organ? Is it a connecting point? What is it?
So the most important fundamental building block of our hormones are proteins. All right. So I want to really reiterate this, how important protein is, because it's needed to build your freaking hormones. All right.
Where are hormones stored?
All throughout your body.
So
even like that fat organ that we talked about is making its own hormones. But there are hormones that are being produced and secreted by your pituitary gland. Your hypothalamus is like a master regulator of your hormonal system, your endocrine system. It's in your brain. And so one of the things we talk about in the book is this growing epidemic of neuroinflammation that is messing up people's hypothalamic function, that's screwing up what's happening downstream. Like your thyroid is on that HPA axis.
Is the thyroid here or something?
In your throat. And so that's largely considered like the metabolic regulator, like your master gland associated with fat loss or fat storage. And it definitely plays a role. So these are all pieces in this web. Now, what's actually determining what these calories are doing, and so I gave a little preface of what our hormones are. So when we're talking about calories, these 5 things, and I'll give an analogy. I'll give like an acronym, the DM. All right, we're going to use that as our letters. So it goes down in the DM. You know what I'm talking about. So the first thing that's controlling what calories are doing, the T stands for the type of food itself, determines what the calories are doing in your body. And this is highlighted in this crazy study. And this was published in Food and Nutrition Research. Listen to this. This is freaking crazy. They went to find out what would happen with a meal of the same calories that's either a meal of whole foods or processed food. Same amount of calories.
So a bowl of cereal and some fruits and vegetables.
So what they did was they had sandwiches. And so one set of folks got the sandwich that was considered whole food sandwich, which was whole grain bread and cheddar cheese. The other folks received the processed food sandwich, which was white bread and cheese product. Right?
Oh no!
And that's Kraft, Kraft slices.
That American
it's
cheese
not
tastes
legally,
so good.
They can't call it cheese. And so here's what happened after, and I love this study because they tracked the pathway of calorie burn, their metabolic rate, and what happened when they ate these 2 respective sandwiches. After they compiled the data, the folks, even though the calories were the same, The folks who consumed the processed food sandwich had a 50% reduction in calorie burn after eating that damn sandwich. 50% reduction.
Why is that?
Because the body, so this gets into some of the other things we'll talk about, but that the processed nature of those foods created some metabolic dysfunction and some confusion for your endocrine system.
Oh man.
And your nervous system and all these, the cellular community, that communication. So now the body is less apt to let go of that energy. It's confused, it's trying to hang on to it, all right? Now, what are most folks eating?
Processed
foods, all right? So it's literally changing the way their body even associates with calories. And they're trying to count these damn points and not understanding that the very nature of how their body's operating is skewed. So that's just the T. That's the type of food, all right? So the H is how the food is prepared. Has a massive impact on what the calories do in your body. So
you mean whether it's cooked, whether it's raw, whether it's stir fried, I don't know. Like
all of that.
Really?
Exactly, yes. So to give a good example, if you think about spinach, right? Spinach, a lot of folks, of course, consider it's a healthy food. Popeye was like knocking it down in a can. I don't know have you ever had spinach out of a can?
No.
It must have been tough times. But so spinach is this is a good one because these green leafy vegetables, there's nutrition that's locked inside the cell wall. Mm-hmm. And you have to basically crack open the cell wall to extract the calories and some of the nutrients. And as the spinach gets older, that's why there's baby spinach. Mm-hmm. And as the spinach gets more mature, the cell walls become harder to break into, all right? So just right off the bat, baby spinach versus the same quantity of mature spinach, you're gonna get more calories out of the baby spinach.
Is that better for you or?
This is not about better or worse right now. This is just like understanding there's some other stuff happening.
Interesting, okay.
Now, but here's another thing. Cooking the spinach too breaks down the cell wall. So regardless if it's a baby spinach, cooked spinach, a mature spinach. And when this happens, it also, the density of the spinach. Like you've seen it, you can-
Shrinks, whole bag.
Comes this little teeny baby teaspoon, right? It's just understanding how the food is prepared changes what calories do in your body.
Interesting. So if you're cooking spinach, it has less calories in it.
If you're cooking spinach, calories become more available.
So what does that mean? When you consume it, your body's consuming more calories?
It's able to extract more of the calories when it's cooked.
So if it's raw, it's got less calories, a little bit less.
Less that you can extract from it. In general, these are minutia.
Yeah.
These are small things, but they matter. So this gets into the conversation of what food is. And so even when we talk about calories, the way that this was initially kind of brought to the forefront, they used something called a bomb calorimeter, all right, a bomb calorimeter. And what they do is they took the food and they put it into a box, and they put that box into another box that's filled with water. And then they would burn the food with electrical energy to find out all of the available calories that were in this food that was used to heat the water up. Mm-hmm. And so once they did this, they were like, okay, there's 200 calories in this particular food product. The problem is you might be the bomb, Lewis, but you're not a bomb calorimeter, all right? Your body is very different. There are indigestible components of that food, for example, whereas the bomb calorimeter is basically saying all the calories that are here when you don't absorb all the calories in the food that you eat, okay? Mm-hmm. So this creates this schism, all right? So those indigestible components they're gonna be more in raw spinach. You're not gonna digest as much.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna digest as much and you're not gonna pull as many calories in. However, there's bioavailable micronutrients that you're gonna get. It's not that raw spinach versus cooked spinach is good or bad. It's just there's different ways that it impacts your body.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So that's how the food is prepared.
Yep. Types of food, how it's prepared.
Right, so the DM, it goes down in the DM, all right? The next one is the E, and the E stands for energy exchange. Now this one here, this is something folks might have learned about a little bit in school. I know I did in my university class. However, I don't think we really get this. It costs energy, it costs calories to digest calories. Your body uses calories to digest calories.
To burn or digest the calories.
To produce to
chew,
the saliva, to chew, to swallow.
Through the intestinal wall, like everything, right?
To churn the stuff, to produce stomach acid, to move it, to take the food from your gastrointestinal tract through your small intestine and move it through into your bloodstream and move those cells, those nutrients to your brain, to your eyeballs, to your toes.
How much do we burn from one meal? From eating, chewing, to eliminating? How long does that take typically? Is that a 12 or 24-hour window?
It depends,
from one meal?
man. That's such a very diverse question because it depends on the type of food. It depends on, matter of fact, we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
We'll get to that. So
energy exchange.
Yeah, energy exchange. Now, this energy exchange, how many calories or how much the caloric expense is in digesting food depends on the type of food too. The macronutrients specifically is what people know about, but it's a little bit more diverse.
If it's processed food, it's going to be harder to digest. It's going to be more work or less work?
It depends on the type of food.
Got it.
But we'll stick with the overarching because we could do the whole show just on that one topic. But just on the macronutrient side,
okay.
Proteins are well noted to be more calorically expensive to digest. It costs you about 20 to 30% of the protein that you eat is the calories in there are used to digest the protein. So we'll just say if you consume 100 grams of protein, 100 calories of protein, 20 to 30 calories are used to digest that protein.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Right? So you get a net profit of calories of 70. All right.
So you can have more calories and realize it's going to be less that you're actually
with protein. With protein. With carbohydrates, it's going to cost you, it's about 10 to 15% of that energy that you take in, caloric energy is used to digest it. For fats, it's about 0 to somewhere in the ballpark about 5% to digest it.
So more protein equals more burning of calories.
It's called the thermic effect of food. All right. And protein is largely kept out of the conversation today. It's people are battling about carbs and fats.
Right.
These are the big diet frameworks. And protein is like Rodney Dangerfield. It's like, I get no respect. You know what I mean? It's just like, so it was so fascinating because I think too in our culture, we believe that most Americans are just eating a ton of protein. When the data actually shows something very different. There are populations that are eating a very high amount of protein, but the quality of their protein too is a problem. And then but there's a large portion of our society that's not eating enough protein. Not even near.
What are they just eating? Sugar and carbs?
Yeah, because we've replaced so many things in food with more sugar, So the thermic effect of food, this is not taken into consideration. This does not show up on your product label. And just to give people a food tip here, one of them is almonds. Almonds is a really great example. And there was actually a study that was done, and they was looking at basically saying there's a discrepancy in the Atwater system of caloric. So what you see on the back of a product label, companies are not using a bomb calorimeter anymore to measure calories in their food. They're just doing some math.
Right.
All right. They're just like, okay, there's 4 calories per gram of protein, right? And they're just doing some math. All right. So that's the Atwater system. But what they found was that even though it might be 170 calories of almonds you're consuming, that's on the product label, in actuality, you only get a net caloric intake of 129 of those calories. All right.
Say it one more time. On the
170
label?
calories you're consuming of
label.
almonds.
Yeah.
You're actually only getting 129.
Because you're burning.
Yeah.
The other.
There's energy being used. There's a thermic effect of food, right? So almonds are great.
Now, is that true for everyone, or is that based on your hormones and your metabolic rate?
That gets to the next one. All right. So the THE, so it's going down in the DM. All right. The DM. So the D is digestive efficiency. All right. Digestive efficiency. And this leans into the conversation of your unique metabolic fingerprint. All right. Every single human being is incredibly unique in what their metabolism and their digestion is doing. There's never been a digestion like you before in human history. There will never be after. And you are not even the same today as you'll be tomorrow.
Exactly.
It is always fluid and changing. And the problem is we think that we put ourselves in this box. Even a diet might work for us for a year, and then all of a sudden we're doing the same things and it stops working. And we blame us. It's like, no, I just need to paleo harder. I need to keto harder. I need to vegan harder.
Count calories more.
Yeah. And these are great frameworks, but we don't want them to imprison us because we change. Our bodies are continuously changing and evolving. Not to say that any of those aren't wonderful. And Eat Smart is really a unifier of whatever diet framework you want to go with. I support that. But there are principles that apply for success in all of them. So digestive efficiency means Your ability to produce stomach acid is one factor of that. Your enzyme production, like folks that produce lactase, the enzyme that can break down lactose, right, milk sugar. About 75% of the population don't produce adequate amounts, if any, of lactase enzyme. So they're not digesting.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're not extracting as many calories from it. Not that this is a good thing though, because your bacteria in your body are gonna go crazy if you're not digesting it properly. Thus, running off to the bathroom, because you don't know if you have to fart or whatever, you know what I mean? And you're not fun to be around if you're lactose intolerant. Like you have a, extreme case of that and you're like down in some milk, you're on the gallon a day diet, right? So these are all factors that influence your digestive efficiency. And also for you, for example, your gastrointestinal tract is probably longer than the average person, right?
So there's bigger and taller. Yeah.
And there's more time for it to kind of stay in your body. That super highway is just longer because it has to try to fuel this bigger vessel.
How long is our intestinal tract?
It depends on the person.
How long do you think?
Several feet. I'll just put it like that. Yeah. It depends on the person. So but it's also, we tend to think it's very uniform. We think these things are uniform across the board, right? Like this 5'2" girl is supposed to be doing the same protocol as a 6'4" Lewis Howes, right? The M, all right, goes down to the DMs. This one right here, this one, man, this is like the final frontier when we're talking about nutrition and health and where we're at with science right now. And the M is your microbiome makeup. The makeup of your microbiome has a massive impact on your body's association with calories. This is part of the lexicon now. I know just about everybody listening has probably heard of the microbiome, right? This incredible ecology, this dynamic plethora of microbes that inhabit our bodies, that are in and on our bodies. Even right now, dude, you got like 400 trillion viruses.
Yeah, I know.
The viruses are on people's mind.
Bugs.
Right.
All over the body.
All over.
Isn't that crazy?
400 trillion. And many of them are opportunistic, right? But that means that when you're compromised, they can take control. But the thing is, why are they around? They all play a role. It's not good or bad. It's about us being in a good state of health because viruses have actually helped us to evolve as humans. As a matter of fact, when the human genome was decoded, they found that the human gene itself is 8% virus.
Right. It's like alien, right? It's like a...
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we're at war with these things. We're at war with microbes. We want to kill viruses. We want to kill bacteria. Not to say that novel things or things that the body doesn't have an innate immunity towards, we shouldn't be careful about. But we also have an adaptive immune system that this is how we got here. And what the greatest science that we have right now shows that our immune system itself was started by viruses that were defending itself against other viruses. And that's how we became the kind of dynamic adaptive immune system that we have today. And so this is the B cells, T cells, these interferons, natural killer cells, all these things. So, but going back to the microbiome and the association with calories, this is gonna freak you out. Listen to this. So, to start with, this was published in the journal Cell. They found that there's specific bacteria in mice that actually block their intestines from absorbing as many calories. All right. So the bacteria in their gut blocked the absorption of calories. Now, some folks are like, well, we're not mice. I get that. Now we have human studies, and now we know that folks that start to lean into being overweight and obese, there's a very distinct shift in the microbiome cascade. We can literally just look at somebody's microbiome cascade, not even know what they look like, what their body composition is, and know that they're overweight based on their bacteria. All right? And so what they did was they took these human, quote, fat bacteria and implanted them into lean mice. And what happened was the mice who had the fat bacteria put into their bodies began to gain weight. They became insulin resistant and gained body fat rapidly, versus taking human samples from healthy test subjects, lean test subjects, and putting them into mice. And they stayed lean, all right? Well, I'm getting excited. This is the one. This study right here is the freakiest one to me. They took identical twins, all right?
Humans?
Humans, yeah. They took identical twins and they looked at their microbiome cascade. And they found that again, these are identical twins, same caloric intake, all right? The twin who had a higher ratio of bacteria associated with obesity gained more weight, had a tendency towards gaining more weight and body fat, even though they're eating the same diet and they're identical freaking people, they're identical twins. The calories became such a lower tier thing. They're eating the same amount, yet one's gaining fat and one isn't. So this conversation is so much bigger than just managing calories and telling your patients that they need to be in a caloric deficit. We're way past that right now. These things matter, they absolutely matter, but there's so much more to the picture, and so many people are suffering because they keep doing calorie restricting and trying all these different diets and not understanding we need to get your microbiome healthy.
How do we get the microbiome healthy? So that's the solution.
Yeah.
It's focusing on the microbiome, not the calorie deficit.
Yeah, this is a big part of the book too. You know, we focus on these things. Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here to up-level your health today.
I just do detective work and say, okay, you know, what are these external forces, many of which are food, and many of which are the products we've made